At long last, another Super Mario movie is on the horizon. The less said about the first movie, the better. But what will this new movie be about? The trailer shows us 3D rendered characters featuring Bowser, Mario, Toad, and others in presumably the Mushroom Kingdom. When adapting a video game to the silver screen, the big draw is usually to see the game world and characters upscaled to real life. So when this new Mario trailer is advertising what looks like a 3D Pixar type movie, I'm not very excited, but I'm sure my young sons are. I'm not so naive as to assume this movie is being made for original Mario fans. It's a tool to rope in new young fans with a kid-friendly aesthetic. That being said, this channel focuses on narrative and not so much on the style of presentation. When I first introduced my sons to Super Mario and the many video games that are in the series, my youngest really took to them and to the characters. He wanted the plushy toys and even some printed material. Of particular interest was the origin book Super Mario Bros. Trapped in the Perilous Pit. This book said that Mario and Luigi entered a magical drain pipe in New York and exited into the Mushroom Kingdom. I would read this book to my sons before bed many times until he asked me for more stories. It occurred to me that this origin story wasn't very comprehensive. There were so many elements that were glossed over, while others just seemed like drug-induced fever dreams. In any event, I determined to sleuth out the true origin story for the Super Mario setting and its features. What I discovered was convoluted and in some cases contradictory, so I used my powers of deduction to extrapolate the series of events that could produce a story like the one we are all familiar with. After I had written it down, I read it to my sons before bed several times until they wanted to hear something new. I wrote my Super Mario Origin several years ago and I hadn't given it much thought until I saw the news about the new Mario movie and decided to share my interpretation of events. I don't know if the new movie will be an origin story or a retelling of the most common damsel in distress narrative, or if it will introduce new elements to the lore and push ahead into a new era of Mario adventures. Before we get to see that story on the big screen, I invite you to have a listen to my origin reconstruction for Super Mario. Eastern Kingdom was a lush and verdant land filled with wondrous plants and beautiful vistas. The people that lived there were peaceful and happy. The land was protected by many magics that had been woven by its kind and powerful queen. Wondrous plants of all varieties bloomed there, especially mushrooms, both mundane and magical. So numerous were these mushrooms that the land would come to be known as the Mushroom Kingdom. This beautiful land and its abundance did not go unnoticed. In the west, there were volcanic lands. They were dark, and it was an ugly place, filled with mountains, caves, and lava rivers. A warrior king ruled this dark and fiery kingdom alone. He greatly desired to take Rosalina as his queen. Her magical wards prevented him from taking her lands by force. A careful study of the stars revealed that the wards around the eastern lands became weak during planetary alignments. Tonight was one of those times, and the king had to act, or else he would be forced to wait until the next alignment. His sorceress was preparing a mighty enchantment that would transform the Eastern army, rendering it harmless.
Tonight, my soldiers march on the Eastern Kingdom. Is your magic ready, sorceress?
The king demanded.
Yes, my lord. Once cast, your troops will meet with no resistance,
she assured the king.
What of the queen? Her magic is said to be very powerful,
the king countered.
Normally that would be a concern. However, she has just given birth, and our spies within the kingdom say that she is exhausted. There may never be a better time to strike,
the sorceress replied.
I will take my leave so that you can finish your work.
With that, the king went to prepare his army for the invasion. As the night grew dark, the sorceress began her mighty magic. A thick red fog began to flow from the highest window of the castle tower toward the eastern kingdom. In the east, the castle guards watched with concern as the approaching red fog drifted closer. The fog began to swirl and surround the guards. Soon the magic began to twist and transform them from men into mushroom people. The guards sounded the alarm just as the Koopa army came into view. In the castle, Queen Rosalina was rocking the newborn princess to sleep when a castle guard burst into the nursery.
My queen, the Western army attacks, and a foul magic is transforming us.
The magical fog had changed the strong man into a small, child-sized mushroom person.
Deploy the fire flowers and set a line of defense along the castle wall,
ordered the queen. Quickly, Rosalina placed her brooch onto the princess, and with a few whispered words, she placed the sleeping baby into her crib. The brooch would protect the baby from the transforming magic.
This magic is the work of the sorceress,
the queen reasoned, clenching her fist. She rushed out of the nursery, running to the castle wall. In the field below, her guards had all been transformed, and they were being overrun by the Western soldiers. Queen Rosalina drew her power from the land and its living things. She was the one who had infused her kingdom with that magic and raised the wards of protection. She knew that the very elements of this land would answer her call. She raised her hands and chanted,
By the magic of the sacred land, this putrid fog I now command. Its powers of changing I reverse, and place the enemy in its curse.
The red fog shifted to gold. Now it was the Western invaders that began to transform. The fog was everywhere, and no one could escape its effects. The invaders twisted into many different forms. The Western spies became living spores. The king was transformed into a hulking beast. The magical fog transformed the mind, along with the body. Everyone affected became confused and later would lose all memory. Soon, the two armies began to wander off in all directions. A shadow appeared on the castle wall beside the queen. Sensing danger, she reached out and grasped an orange flower and then lashed out with fire. The sorceress had expected this and dodged the queen's attack, and then continued her advance, hurling magic of her own as she closed the distance between them. Soon the pair resorted to physical combat, hands locked together, each woman trying to overpower the other. The queen was indeed weakened from giving birth. She could not continue this contest for much longer. She knew that if she were beaten now, her kingdom and people would become slaves. Without a single uttered word, the queen summoned a warp whistle and blew into it. A whirlwind spun around both women and swept them away. Years passed. The magical fog had cleared away long ago, but it also had removed the memories of the people. In the east, Princess Peach had grown into a beautiful young woman, but she had no understanding of her heritage or power. In the west, the king, now using the name Bowser, took notice of the princess and her coming of age. His beastly transformation had not completely erased long-forgotten desires. His plans to kidnap the princess were complete, and soon the time would be at hand.